Good day, everyone. This is Leia Mea Coronejo, and this is my report in general biology. My topic is to explain transport mechanism in cells. But before we start, I have here my objectives. My first objective is define and differentiate. Clearly define the terms active transport and passive transport and explain their fundamental difference in terms of energy requirements, different direction of movements, and types of molecules transported. The second one is to know the importance of cell membranes, emphasize the role of cell membranes as selectively permeable barriers that controls the movement of substance in and out of the cell. So here. So before we totally start, we should know what is transport mechanism. Cell Okay. Cell transport mechanism are the procedures that enable materials to pass across the selective permeable cell membrane in order to sustain life activities and preserve cellular homeostasis. These systems are necessary. So, cell transport is a procedure that you really need because it uses one of the example of it is when we breathe. When we breathe oxygen, um, the molecule of oxygen transport on our body. That's why we're still alive. That's what I know. So here we have here types of cell transports. The first one is passive, and passive has three kinds, which is the simple diffusion, osmosis, and facilitated diffusion. The second one is the active transport. In active transport, we have two kinds, which are the pump transport and vesicle transport. But inside of pump transport, we have here the primary and secondary. And in vesicle transport, we have here also two, the exocytosis and endocytosis. So I have here a flow chart of cell transport for us to know easily the flow of the cell transport or the flow of it. So we have here the passive, which has three kinds. We have here the simple diffusion, osmosis, and the facilitated diffusion. And the active is the active that has two kinds, which are the pump and vesicle. And in the pump, we have here the primary and secondary, and in the vesicle, we have here the exocytosis and endocytosis. Okay, so to totally start, is what is passive transport? Passive transport is a type of membrane to transport that does not require energy to move substance across cell membrane. Instead of using cellular energy like active transport, passive transport relies on the second law of thermodynamics to drive the movements of substance across cell membrane. So, it says that passive transport doesn't require energy to move. She can move without the help of energy, but it relies on the second law of thermodynamics, which says that second law of thermodynamics is a physical law based on universal empirical observation concerning heat and energy interconversions. A simple statement of the law is that the heat always flows spontaneously from hotter to colder regions of matter. So it says that of the law of second law of thermodynamics that the heat always starts with a hot to cold, of course. So In passive, let's begin to sample diffusion. Sample diffusion, a process in which the substance moves through a semi-permeable membrane or on a solution without any help of transport proteins. Here, um, the molecules move freely. The molecules here move freely on from outside of the cell membranes to go inside. Because these molecules are the small ones, like for example here I have here example. Bacteria deliver small nutrients, water and oxygens into cytoplasm through simple diffusion. So we know um like here water and oxygen is small, that's why they can go through to the cell membrane. Also, it always starts on the low concentration to high concentration. So let's move. I have here picture. As we can see that the fat soluble molecule can just pass through to the layers of cell membranes because she is small. She can easily go through that without the help of the protein. So this diffusion, simple diffusion, is a type of passive transport while molecules diffuse unassisted. So they don't need the molecules that go through to the cell membrane or go through this transport doesn't need assist. So here, let's come to the osmosis transport. Osmosis is a form of passive transport where when water molecules moves from low solute concentration, which means a high water concentration, to high solute or which means a low water concentration across a membrane that is not permeable to the solute. So we have here the picture. We can see that the water the water and the sugar um goes to the right because it has more water and sugar. That's so they have they came from in a few they came from the left, which has few water and sugar, which means they came from a low solute concentration low solute concentration, uh, and they go to the right one, which has more water and sugar, and that becomes the high solute concentration. So here we have the next one is the facilitated diffusion transport. Facilitated diffusion transport is a passive movement of molecules along the concentration gradient. It is a selective process. The membranes allows only selective molecules and ions to pass through it. However, it prevents other molecules from passing through it, the membrane. So here in facilitated diffusion, it's quite similar with simple diffusion. The difference with it is this needs help. Facilitated diffusion needs assist um, because the molecules that going through the cell membrane of to this is um, the bigger one and the polar molecules. So it needs the channel protein where the molecules can go through. Like you can see in the picture, they use the channel protein as a passage so they can go inside the cell membrane. It also starts from high concentration to low concentration. That's all I can say about facilitate it. So now, let's come to the active transport. Active transport is the movement of molecules or ions across a cell membrane from a region of lower concentration to a higher concentration against the concentration gradient. Active transport requires a cellular energy to achieve this movement. So this one, unlike the passive, um, they don't passive don't need energy, but here, um, active needs energy or the cellular um this this cellular energy to for this to move and for this active movement to happen. So we have here the pumps. Pumps are kind of active transport which pumps ions and molecules against their concentration gradient. Active transport requires energy input in the form of ATP. Much like passive transport diffusion, proton pumps are specific for certain molecules. So here, proton proton pumps. It says that protons pump also is specific for the for the molecules that will pass through, like on the diffusion, on the facilitated diffusion. So here, so I have here the picture. You can see that we have here like the pump. Um, that so here inside and earlier I said that it has pump transfusion has primary transport and secondary. Here's the primary transport, also called direct active transport. Directly use chemical energy to transport all species of solutes across a membranes against their concentration gradient. So this says it's direct. Primary transport is direct. It's directly using the chemical energy to transport the energy, the spices needed, like we see in the picture here. It always came from low to high. It 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 can start from inside of the cell or outside of the cell, like we see on the picture. Next is the secondary transport. Secondary active transport is defined as the transport of a solute in the direction of its increasing electrochemical potential coupled to the facilitated diffusion of a second solute in the direction of its decreasing electrochemical potential. So here. So unlike the primary transport, it only allows from outside to inside. Inside of the cell membrane, and it starts from high. I know it also starts from high concentration to low concentration, as we can see in the picture. So we are already here on the last vesicle transport. Very large molecules across the plasma membrane with a different sort of health called vesicle transport. Vesicle transport requires energy, so it also form an active transport. There are two types of vesicle transport, which are the endocytosis and exocytosis. So it became active transport um, because it the molecules can pass through on a plasma membrane with different kind of help. That's why it it becomes part of vesicle transport. So on a vesicle transport, we have here the endocytosis. endocytosis, which says endocytosis is a cellular process in which substances are brought into the cell. The material to be internalized is surrounded by an area of cell membrane, which then buds up inside the cell to form vesicle containing the ingested materials. Endocytosis includes pinocytosis, which is the cell drinking, and the phagocytosis, which is the cell eating, and it forms the active transport. So we have here the picture, as you can see. Um, the next one is the exocytosis transport. Exocytosis is the process by which cells exert waste and large molecules from the cytoplasm to the cell exterior, and therefore is the opposite of the endocytosis. Exocytosis generates vesicles prepared to as secretory or transport vesicle. Just take a look on the picture. It's really different with the endocytosis, as we can see. So, now, to conclude, I have here a Venn diagram um, to to differentiate and to know the similarity of between the two. On the passive, I put it passive in a contrast to active transport does not require cellular energy and relies on the natural kinetic motion of molecules. Molecules move down their concentration gradient from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So here we have also the active transport, which requires a cellular energy typically in the form of adenosines tripos, triphosphate or ATP to move molecules against their concentration gradients. This means that the molecules are moved from an area of low concentration to a high concentration. So, of course, they have different characteristics, but they also have um, the same characteristic, which is active and passive transport are two fundamental mechanisms by which cells move molecules in their membranes. That's all. Thank you.